Hey everyone, it's Frederick Kramer here, and in today's video I'm going to give you a step-by-step roadmap that you can use to free up 30 hours or more per week of your time each week, which is obviously going to help you work on the things that actually move the needle in your business, save you so much headaches and so much energy as well, and of course time, and just ultimately get you to your goals like way faster. In case you don't know me yet, my name is Frederick Kramer and I'm on a mission to revolutionize productivity by helping agency owners double, triple or quadruple the speed at which they get rich. So without further ado, let's get into that. By the way, if you're not making 10K a month or you're not making any sales right now, which is the case for a lot of people, just don't focus on removing so many things from your work. Just focus on sending a lot of outreach / running a lot of ads. But it's probably just outreach. Just focus on having a big outreach volume, make some tests, right? Like see what is working, track the metrics, try to improve some things. If you do that and then you learn a bit about sales and just do that for some time, that's literally like 80%, like 80-20 of what you need to do to just make the first like incomes, if you want, get what I mean, right? Just getting the first money in. But the rest of this video is rather going to be for like more advanced people that are already making some money, or at least have like systems built and know that they already made money, stuff like that, right? And that's basically it for the people that are not making that. Now, when you're making, let's say like 10K a month or something, and you're doing everything by yourself, you probably know that this is quite exhausting, right? You're focusing on your clients, you're trying to deliver for them properly, you're trying to message them each time when they want something or so, you're taking all the sales calls, you try to improve the sales process by trying to figure out, okay, what do the people say, what have their objections been, everything like that. You're sending the outreach, you're trying to iterate on the outreach campaigns, you're tracking the finances, you're doing all the financial things, right? You're taking care of all the accounts, you're rebranding the accounts, you're creating content. It's just way too much, right? And the things that actually move your needle in the business, of course, isn't just not one thing. Probably the one thing that's moving your needle is your delivery, because that's usually the weakest point in the business, but it can be any weak point in the business. And the best way to actually move the needle is by putting as much time or as much energy as you can into the thing that is actually moving the needle, right? And the way that you do that is by just making sure that you don't need to work on the other things, right? And a very famous framework for that, and I'm not just going to give you the framework, of course, but actually how to implement it, is eliminate, automate, delegate, right? But probably when you're at 10K a month, you already know about like eliminating, and you're probably not working on that many like low leverage things that don't actually get you forward, but you just want to look at anything in your business and think, if I just stop doing that now, is anything really bad going to happen to my goal, or like long term really bad? Like if I just stop making content right now, I'll still probably get to like 7 figures or something, but it's still something that I want to leverage for like long term or something, right? But you get the point, like things that actually don't get you further. What I used to do is I used to work like a lot on my like daily routines, like how do I plan optimally, changing some formatting in my documents, making sure that everything was working properly, realizing that I don't have much clarity, then like journaling for like another hour, something like that, right? It was just like really confusing. At the end of each day, I always felt like really bad because I knew that I haven't done much. And in that case, the real like high leverage thing to do was just like sending a lot of outreach and testing on that, right? But that, like I said, it's different from person to person. That's eliminate, right? The next step is automate, and honestly, like I could give you like way more advice probably in a few months on that. But automate is basically, of course, just you take the processes that already exist and you automate them. But there are different ways to automate, right? The first way to automate is to create content instead of talking to people, right? Because at some point in your business, when you have a team, when you have clients, when you have everything, you need to give them like some information that's necessary. And it's probably going to be the same information each time, because your business has a finite number of systems, and also your service has a finite number of systems, and there's a finite amount of things that you need to tell the people to lead to them not asking you any questions anymore, which is of course really beneficial, right? And whenever you need to communicate something with your clients, just automate that in a way where you can just send them like a video that is explaining everything, or you send them like an onboarding form at the beginning where they just give you like all the information all at once, without you just having to ask them all the time, because that's of course like wasting a huge amount of time. if you always have to wait like a few hours, especially if they're like in a different time zone, to respond, and then you respond and then it's like another day, right? Just do it all at the beginning. And when you communicate with other team members, really just like make videos where you explain certain processes in your business. You probably know what they are, right? That's one way. The next way to automate, and that's really only like half automated, but therefore it's like possible for almost any process that I can think of, probably every process, is that you literally, and I made a video about this recently, take a process, let's say, I don't know what you do when someone is not showing up to a call or something, right? Taking that process, writing every single step one by one into a Google Doc, and then like keeping it there, so you know each time when you want to do that, you don't need to think anymore. You just follow the process, right? That's half automated, of course, but you should do that anyway at some point, because later you're probably not going to be like the guy who's taking all the sales calls all the time. You're probably just going to like give that to your sales reps or like your sales team overall, right? And of course, that is that delegation already, right? But when you just write down things and just have like a certain list that you just need to follow, it's going to repeatedly like burn in the process in your mind. And that's a good thing, because you don't need to think so much about like, have I done something different this time? And it's also going to make sure that there's not like suddenly that there's not going to happen anything suddenly that's breaking the process because you're doing the same thing each time. And for something to not work anymore, something of course needs to change. When you have less moving parts, that's less likely to happen, right? And of course there's software as well, right? Software is a really powerful way to automate, but there's so much with software that I honestly don't know that much about, right? I don't want to tell you like something when I don't actually know much about it. But when it comes to software, of course, we have Loom, first of all, as a software. We have email, I mean like things like Instantly or something, right? Where you can just like send out emails automated. There are also other tools that are instantly, right? Some tools that can actually source like high quality leads, like scrape them, and you get a lot of them. And of course, like Zapier, when something is happening in one software, like connecting that to another software. I would like to like tell you much more about that, but currently I haven't, like it's just not my high leverage activity to focus on that specifically, because I still need to focus on some other processes in my business that aren't in KPI yet, so that they're not like converting optimally as of right now when you're watching this video. Probably when you're really watching this video in the future, I will have already made a video on that, but that is basically like how to like automate things, right? And just try to ask ChatGPT if there's a way to automate a certain process, because when you automate something, like the leverage is just huge, right? You just set it up once and then it's just done. And the problem, like the only problem I can think of right now is that you just have like some extra cost, because a lot of people with a SaaS business, of course, they want to charge you some money for that, but it's still like much worth it, especially when you're at 10K per month, and this is just saving you like 5 hours per week or something, right? It's already worth it. So that's automation. And then the last one, of course, is delegation, and it's absolutely necessary in an online business, because business is mainly like the needle mover is because of like humans actually think, right? It's not as if like an AI could build an entire business, at least not right now, right? Because AI is just not thinking like as much as a human as we do. And if you ask ChatGPT, for example, to like give you a script or something, it's probably still it's quite stinky of like robot, right? So it's still not that good. That doesn't mean that in the future there could be an AI that can actually do everything, but what I want to say is like a business always needs human interaction in some way, and that not only from the CEO but also from other people. And there are some things that simply cannot just be automated or eliminated, right? Because you still need things, right? And some things just need to be actually delegated to other people. And then here's where the roadmap comes in. Like what step one was, of course, like eliminating everything that you don't absolutely need, or like making things a lot leaner. And you should actually do this like probably like 4 times a year, like 8 times a year, just like looking at everything and thinking like, okay, like what can I still remove? Because we as humans tend to like forget about certain things and certain processes, for example, that we want to remove things to become more productive. And we just need to like repeatedly like go over that and think like, oh, I actually don't need that. Like, why did I come up with that recently? Just removing that again, right? So that was step one. Step two was like automating and like different, we could even say like step 2 to 4, but it's really just like automating. And step 3 is delegating, right? And the first thing, or like the real step 3, is not just to like hire an entire team and making everything really complicated. The first hire that you need to make, and if you already have hires made and you still have like not much time, I'll get onto that later as well, is an operations manager, right? So just someone that is a pretty like generalized role, right? Because operations just means anything but actual service delivery, sales, or client acquisition, right? So these are people that you can like hand over the tasks of like making daily reports of the clients, or maybe tracking certain metrics, or checking your email, checking the like doing the finances, like, right? You probably have like some more things like lined up that you can think of right now specifically for your business, where you think like, I don't actually need to be doing these things myself. Some things you're probably going to think, wow, but that's like my account, what if the person's like doing anything bad? That's a good point. I'm going to get onto that later, right? But it's really important to just get a person for the beginning that's just handling like the really sort of like low leverage tasks, but that are like really important. And of course, what you then want to do is, again, the like method with the document, where you just write down the entire process. Then you want to make a video as well, where you just record yourself like doing the task, and then you say like, okay, like this is important here, this is important here, and just explaining everything. And if they then still have like many questions, of course you can answer them. But at some point you can just like update the video, and then in case for some reason you have to like handle like give the task onto somebody else or something later, you will just have the question answered already, right? And this is already going to save you, depending on how many tasks you're doing, probably like, let's say like 10 hours per week, right? If you like checking like certain documents and like working on things, and maybe managing some people on the team, communicating with the clients, because operations just doesn't mean like they can just do that. They can also just like be like a client success manager or something like that, right? And you can actually like get a lot of people from countries that speak like really good English that are happy to do these tasks for like $3 to $7 per hour. And in case you're thinking, well, what, that's unethical because I don't want to be making that much money, you need to think like people in these countries, like $1 is like like with $1 you can probably buy like 5 times as much as in like Europe or North America or something, right? So of course you could still pay them more, but if they're really happy with that, I would argue that you should just let them go with that. But really, it's up to you, of course, right? Because the one thing is improving your profit margin, the other one is just like improving the life of the other person. But you know, it's up to you what you really do there. But I just want to tell you, like, it doesn't need to be like really expensive to have them do these things, especially when they like free up like 30 hours per week. Like 30 times, let's say like 4, it's just like 120. And that times 4 for like a month means just like $480 like dollars per month to actually pay them, right? Which is really feasible if you're like making 10K a month and you just want to remove like 30 hours per week, right? So here's how the math actually works out. It's actually not that complicated, but of course, at some point you don't just want to have like an operations manager. The next things you'll probably do is hire people for your actual service delivery, right? So just telling people how the processes work, how to make it repeatedly. But of course, first of all, you should like actually like automate and like create all these processes in actual documents so that they're not just like in your mind, right? Because as soon as they exist there, like everything is becoming like way clearer, and it's going to be way easier to actually like give that to other people, right? To handle these tasks. And yeah, basically when you have that and you have people for the client acquisition, for the service delivery, then of course you hire setters for your actual client acquisition, and then you basically do the same. And if you have people that are incentivized, so that they're like paid per appointment or like paid per successful client or something like that, pay per appointment is really easy, or like maybe also just give them like a small part of the actual like sale, right? And then of course that's going to just make sure that they're actually working on the most important things. They're not just wasting your time, right? It would be the best case if you could just do this for every role, but it's really hard to like pay someone like I don't know. You could also like tell your operations manager like, I'm going to pay you that much because I estimate that to be that many hours, but if you finish earlier, then of course you're getting the same amount of money or something, right? So that's also like a way to make sure that they're actually like more productive. And of course, if they take longer for the task, same thing applies. Like they're just going to get like the same amount because there's not like that often a real excuse for like just working slower as usual, right? Just give them like a reasonable time frame for that. And yeah, when you hire sellers, of course, it's the same thing. And as soon as you have like people that are actually booking the calls for you and sending the outreach, and you have someone that's handling like all the clients, and you have someone that's handling like the client questions, and you're automating that with content. So each time like clients have questions, you can just make like an FAQ document where you just like go over all the questions or something and have like processes for everything. The operational drag of your business, or at least like the drag on yourself, is so much lower, and it's probably going to, it could actually save you like 40 hours per week, honestly, right? Because if you don't need to communicate with clients all the time, also like simply the fact that you're not thinking about other things, because here's the setting process, I just gave that to them. Maybe when you have like a lot of setters, you also hire like a setter manager that also is checking everything and like sees, okay, these people are doing their work properly, and you're just having like a call with them like once a week, right? You just don't need to worry about that. And then you can really like focus on the most important thing. Is maybe you still have like a bad sales conversion rate and you want to get that from like 15% to like 40% or something. You can just focus on that, because the calls are coming in with a proven process that you already have. And you also know that the clients are being like dealt with properly and they're getting results. But of course, for all these processes, you need like things in your business that are already working, and you shouldn't like hire something to other people when it's not actually in KPIs. And for example, when you have like an outreach system that only has like 0.5% appointment booking rate, you probably shouldn't hire people for that. But for your operational processes, you already know how they work and you know that they work. So there you can pretty quickly hire someone that's actually going to save you some serious amount of time, depending on how much you actually need to do them. But yeah, that's basically it for the video. I could go like way deeper, like how to hire sales reps, how to do other things, but this is just like the very basic things. And actually something that I forgot, like if you have people and they still don't do like as much work as you want, then you just need to make sure that you actually give them like the exact processes, and just like ask them for like all questions that they will ever have on the process. Maybe like if it's really bad, of course you can get on calls to see what they're doing, but usually you can handle like a lot of things just like via content, like go through the process, explain everything, explain all the questions, what you want from them. And you can really get like a lot of people on the team just when they speak like proper English and they're motivated to do the things and they're consistent with their behavior. You don't actually need like people with like past experience or something, right? Because a lot of people with past experience still have like a shit work ethic or like do something weird there. Because like once, for example, in the past, like I hired someone to do like lead sourcing for me, and he had like lots of like in his Upwork profile, he had like lots of like verifications there, and I was like, okay, quite cool. But then he sent me like leads, and like some of the leads were like not at all what I talked about in the SOP, and like also like the names were just like alphabetically, right? Because but naturally when you source leads like that doesn't happen, right? So you probably like got them from somewhere else, and they also didn't convert and stuff like that. It was like really weird. But like there are other people that in like at the same time I had like other people that didn't have like much prior experience, and I basically just like showed them the process and they were doing exactly that, right? And that was really, really cool and saved me a lot of headache during that time. But now, of course, I'm doing something else. But yeah, so basically just like focus on the people, what they're doing, what are they doing wrong. And if they still don't get it with the videos, then of course you can get on calls with them and like go really deep into the questions. You can maybe have like one check-in call per week or 2 check-in calls per week. And then if they like have more problems, or like actually just start with 3, and when you see, okay, all these calls, like you're handling all the questions really quickly, just go back to 2, go back to 1. Finally, you probably potentially don't even need to have any calls, but if you're at 1 call per week and it's like taking you 30 minutes per week to manage like an entire setter, at some point that's of course really high leverage. Later you will obviously just like have a setter manager, and you have like 30 minutes per week with the setter manager, and that person is just like going over like all the setting team and everything is working fine, right? And if the person is really bad, of course, and they're not doing anything properly, then you should probably just like book for more people. And when you hire people, of course you want to go on like more like 10 or like more interviews, because when you just see like 2 people, the one is really shit, the other one is shit, then you're going to think, oh yeah, but this person wasn't really shit. You get the point, right? You just want to talk to more people. That's really important. So yeah, by the way, if you want to get an agency, but at the end of each day you feel like you could have done 10 times more, there's a link in the description where you can check out how I can help you beyond these videos. It doesn't matter to me really if you click that or not. What matters to me is that your time is being saved. So I just wanted to leave that door open. Also, when you want to have YouTube recommend you more of these videos where a random guy that you don't even know anything about is talking about high leverage operational things for agencies, and he's like making speaking mistakes all the time because he's like that much of a pro at English and stuttering and stuff like that. If you like that and if you think that's valuable for your business, then of course you can feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm sorry for like sounding a bit sick right now because I still have like low energy from like 2 weeks ago and I need to get sort of like back to that. By the way, if you're thinking like how much do you actually work, I actually work like 30 hours per week at the moment, just because of like real bad like burnout symptoms, and I just need to be careful with that, right? But yeah, that's basically it. I'm grateful for you watching this video. Just make sure you actually implement it, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.